Blake Cousins. Welcome back, everybody. We're doing it, and we are live broadcasting from the Big Island of Hawaii. And I've got somebody on the line with me, including an Academy Award nominated director in regards to this documentary, basically a biography of a man who claims he's basically cursed. This documentary is called The Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs. And wow, I watched this documentary and I was pretty much impressed the way they went about shooting this. They really, there's one thing about shooting documentaries about UFOs, but to find out about the person that shoots these things, getting into the history behind these sightings, and having an investigative ethic to see if these man's claims are true or not. And we do this here at Third Phase Moon. We talk to the people, but this movie in itself, this documentary, was basically along the same lines. I like the way they, portrayed how some people look at this phenomenon. So we have the man who's cursed. He's basically says, Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs. We have Cristo Rapolo. He's on the line. And then we also have the director. But let's get into Cristo. Let's bring him in. I got to find his number. There's a lot of callers calling in tonight. Cristo, if you could press number 1 on your touchpad or whatever, and maybe you'll get bumped straight to the top. And you two, we also have the director of the film, Justin Garr. So if both of you, Justin and Crystal, go ahead, press number 1 on your keypad device, and then you'll be taken to the top of the list. It help me out. Let's see. I want to bring in Cristo. Let's see. I'm looking for his area code number, and there we go. We got him. We are live. Cristo, how you doing? You're calling in from Monterey, California.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Are you there?
Well, we are. We're broadcasting. I think we're just there's so many people calling in at once right now. It's quite exciting. But so basically, it says here in the documentary, Chris. So we're sharing some visuals when we put this up on our Third Phase Moon. Everybody's going to know what you look like, how this documentary's format looks, and everything else, and behind the scenes. But it says here that you started seeing strange craft in the skies when you're a young boy. Tell me, how did this all get started? How young were you? Where were you seeing these things? What were you seeing?
Well, I was 8 years old, and I lived in Cleveland, Ohio. And my first experience was, something as a kid that I kind of, you put in the back of your mind as you get older. But what happened was I was asleep in my room with my little brother. We had these bay windows at this apartment complex that we lived at with my parents. And this giant white ambulance pulled up below the window of my bedroom. And so I ran over to the window because it was lighting up the whole room, this big red, bright light. And so I looked down, and there was this giant ambulance, like really big. And this door opened on the roof of it, and out came this ladder. And up this ladder came Bullwinkle Moose in a lab coat. And as he approached me up the ladder, he finally looked at me in the eyes, and as we were looking face to face, he said, I'm going to give you a little bite on the nose, but when I do, you'll be fine when you wake up. And so he gave me a little bite on the nose, and I went to sleep. And when I woke up, my brother had taken all of his diapers out of the hamper and put them over every single pane of glass on the windows in our bedroom to keep something out. My parents were both standing there freaking out, screaming at each other at the top of their lungs about what my brother had done. So that was basically my first experience with these entities. And, as of course, like I said, as a kid, you just disregard that as something, that's a dream or what have you. But then in 1977, I had another sighting in Big Sur with several friends that was extremely significant. And then, of course, the sighting that's in the movie that happened above Greg's restaurant in Seaside with the giant triangle was another eye-opener that said to me, Cristo, I think it's time that you start pursuing this subject and try to put it up on the big screen so that people all over the world can see this. And so, you can use this talent to, speak loudly and share things with a lot of people to get the idea across that this is totally real and there's no fakery about this. This is the real deal. And, when I heard, sadly, a while ago that some people were trying to claim that, everything here is faked or a hoax, we went right to the source of those people and made sure that they no longer do that here anymore, because there have been aliens and ancient aliens and alien spacecraft in this area for probably thousands of years. So, yeah.
Well, that's what that experience when you're a child. I don't know if I could really comprehend exactly what I just heard, but it definitely sounds, I'm trying to wrap my brain about what I just heard.
Yeah. Well, I think that the aliens were trying to make it easier for me to understand what was happening, because, literally Bullwinkle stuck his face right through the glass window. It was like 1 minute there's a window there, and the next minute he's just reaching in and lifting me up and giving me a little bite on the nose. So, yeah. But that is truly, I've never forgotten that since I was a kid. That's stuck with me all that time. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. These experiences, they just don't fade away in memory. They stick with you forever. It's basically kind of a shock and awe, and it's a flash of memory that'll never be wiped away. Let me bring in
right.
Justin Garr. Let's bring in Justin, and I want to ask him because, I've been watching your how you speak and how you act on your video, and I got to give credit to Justin because Justin, following you around, Cristo, must have been quite a chore. Justin, welcome to the show. Yeah,
thanks.
Wow. So how long have you been following around Cristo and his UFO sightings? When did you get started on this documentary, and what compelled you to do it with Cristo?
I think he first called me and he got in touch with me, but I think we started in like September of 2013, and the movie was finally premiered in San Francisco in June of 2016. So I followed him for a very long time, like 2.5 years, I guess.
So, Justin, when did you start realizing, when you first found out that Cristo is backing up his claims? You were there. You actually filmed some of these anomalies in the sky. What were you thinking at the time?
Well, I never actually successfully filmed any of them. I did see them with my naked eye. Everything in the movie is his footage. But I don't know. I was pursuing Cristo because I thought he was really fascinating the first time we met, which is all in the movie. I was just he's super funny and fun and willing to be weird and fun on camera, so I'll pursue that. And I was pretty curious about what he was seeing because he was very adamant that he's seeing real stuff. And so I went up and visited, and I don't remember seeing anything very significant the first visit. There was a sighting. I do remember, we pulled off, and Cristo saw something, and I saw it, but, it was really, really dark, and I could barely make out what it was. But it was, I think my third trip up that I saw something. It's in the movie. The camera, couldn't work in low light, so you can't really see anything, but I recreated it with, kind of a crappy animation. And basically you hear us talking about it, and you hear us you hear me go from skeptical to being convinced that I do not know what I'm looking at, and that was when I was okay, that's interesting. But I also had gone back through his footage after the first 2 times up and found his Holy Grail, which is a 27-minute clip total, or 24-minute. Anyway, it's just everyone who sees it has no idea what it is. It's unbelievable. It's 3 orbs like orbiting in a triangle and then moving apart and then reforming and making another triangle, and then like helicopters come and they disperse faster than anything else in the sky. So like the combination of those things is where I like really started to pay attention to what he was saying. Also the crop circle appeared. I was like, what in the world? You know, that added to it.
Yeah, what's up with the crop circle, Crystal? Tell us about this, because it's incredible what happened. Tell us where it happened and what's...
it happened in Chular. It happened in Chular in a farmer's field who grows alfalfa. And, you know, when this crop circle was first discovered, it was discovered by a reporter who was flying over the area in an airplane and saw it from the air and reported it. And then the farmer apparently reported it also to the sheriff's department. But my gut feeling about that particular event is this. I think a much more likely scenario is that farmer came home and saw some indentations in his field, probably the more normal kind of crop circles, the ones that are, you know, seen in just normal fields, regular round indentations. And in California, believe it or not, 90%, and there was a study that was done on crop circles here in California, 90% of all of the crop circles are the very simple little circular indentations. They have almost never found a crop circle in California that is the sophisticated style of crop circle that particular one appeared to be. But my feeling is that a company like NVIDIA, who wants to advertise a 24-core chip, okay, or whatever it is, that does government-financed work. They do targeting systems also for military aircraft, aside from making these chips. All of a sudden they decide, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's do an advertisement for our new very expensive high-tech chip in some podunk alfalfa field in Chular, California, that can only be seen from the air, right? And then you know, let's hoax this whole thing to make it look like these two guys discovered it with these lights. Now, I went out there, and it was initially, you know, very, very convinced that this was a real crop circle, just because just prior to that, I had a very significant sighting, and I know from what I filmed around here that there are, in fact, you know, these objects and these ships and that these entities exist here. So I went out there, and I admit that, you know, I was really convinced one minute, and then I think fooled into believing that it wasn't real the next. And after I thought about it for a while, I said, you know, a much more likely scenario is that this guy came back, he sees these crop circle indentations, he calls the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department doesn't know what it is, so they call the FBI. The FBI comes out, they know what it is, so they call their pals at NVIDIA. And those guys come out and augment what's already there and turn it into this big, sophisticated, complicated thing. But one thing they forgot was the same thing I forgot when I kind of resolved to the fact that, well, maybe this wasn't real after all, which is that crop circle was in perfect line with all the other crop circles in California, and that it was in the exact trajectory that it should have been in to be a part of that system of crop circles that they have in fact discovered here, you know, so-called real crop circles. So I'm convinced that it was a cover-up and that it was a way for them to wish that away, because somebody definitely knows that the UFOs are all over the place here, because a lot of the time when I'm filming them, I'll be approached by the military in helicopters. I've had them shine their lights on me. I mean, just recently I had a military person with me watching one of the sightings, and a person who's a physicist, and a helicopter that was attending to some emergency all the way across the bay, 21 miles, came all the way across the bay to do nothing but shine his big bright headlights in our face for about 5 minutes and blind us until we left while we were doing a sighting. So I think they're pretty aware of what I'm doing and what's going on here.
what about Monterey? Why do you think it's such a hot spot and there's a lot of military activity in close proximity to these sightings? Is there something special in that area?
Well, you know about the urban legend that there is a submarine passage that goes from Area 51 to the mouth of the submarine trench here in the bay in Monterey. That's a pretty well-known fact amongst the UFO researchers, and I tend to believe that because I have, in fact, seen these orbs come out of the water and basically rise into the sky to form these triangles. Now, they don't do that all the time. Most of the time, they appear above this very remote mountain range that kind of sits behind the Santa Cruz foothills that are at the end of the shore of Monterey Bay. But the reason they're there is because that is a no-fly zone. There's almost no way for them to be approached by planes or anything for that reason. So from the ground, there's no access roads to this place that they're hovering over. It is basically one of the only spots in the Santa Cruz Mountains where there's nobody. There's nothing. It's complete wilderness. And, a lot of people have hiked up in there and gotten severely lost. We also have a little thing called the mystery spot in Monterey, which is where they believe that a giant iron ore meteorite crashed into the ground there. And to this day, you can turn on a spigot of water and the water will move east. It won't drop straight into a bucket. It will move over at a curvature. And the trees there all grow away from each other like the petals of a flower. So something's going on in there. And, you can kind of walk up the side of the walls in that place and lean forward. I mean, if you go online and look up the mystery spot right now, I'm sure you'll see pictures of people doing that exact thing. So the Santa Cruz Mountains have a long history of this kind of Jurassic stuff, and I mean, let's face it, the Santa Cruz Mountains, perspective-wise, on one side of that mountain range, you have NASA doing all their experiments at Ames, Norco, and Vandenberg, and then on the other side, you have Monterey, which is where old Fort Ord used to be. That's Eisenhower and the other general that ran the base. I can't remember his name right now, but anyway, this whole area has 2 spy schools, okay, a naval school that also is tied to the space program. So, if I was an alien, this is where I would be. Not to mention that there was a culture of Indians called the Ramsen Indians who were here for almost 7,000 years until the Spaniards came here and wiped them out in a very short period of time, which, again, if you were an alien, I think you'd be very interested in what transpires in this area.
I got Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, what about this, the curse of the man who sees UFOs? Who came up with that? Why is that a curse? Was it your idea, Justin? Who came up with that?
Yeah, that was my idea. I think I ran that past him at first, and he was like, "I don't think so." I think Cristo was worried about the negative connotations of being cursed, but that's not really the idea to me. It's it's a play on old 50s era sci-fi movies like Curse of the Man with 1,000 Faces, but it's also he's literally cursing all the time, and then also there's tragedy and trauma in his story. So I just thought it was a nice double entendre. And a fun.
Yeah. I appreciate Cristo keeping his language on a PG level right here on the radio show. Appreciate that.
Yeah, he can get real professional.
Hard for you.
Yeah.
I had practice on another radio show. Yeah.
So how about this, Justin? I'm sure you've heard about these, these historic legends in the area of Monterey. What were you thinking about? That's some of the stuff I've heard about, an entrance from Monterey to Area 51. I have not heard that yet, and then the UFO activity. Well, then that could make a lot of sense. Now, what were you thinking about that? Did you want to point into?
It's one of the deepest bays in the world. I think it's either the second or third deepest bay in the world.
Yeah. Well, so I entered into this world through Cristo. I was not like privy to a lot of this information, and then met Cristo, and like we started going on an adventure basically, and he explained all these legends to me and all that, and it's like it's a wonderful web of like really cool connected things. Unfortunately, like, getting into a lot of that is like super complicated, and like really in the end we had to like focus on the narrative that's in the movie instead of like going down different, because there's all these tangential relationships that exist within like, Native American culture, and they would see light people and like other stuff. Speaking of which, a fan emailed us like a few months ago, and there's like some Italian mythical creature that at some point in time that was like called Valcomica or something like that, but he sent us an image, and it's something that people worshipped. It was like a sky creature or something like that, and the drawing of it looks like Bullwinkle. It's like a silhouette, but I thought that was like a really neat sort of connective, like mythological, like bit of story that connects to even like Cristo's story. And so that stuff's really interesting. Yeah, I like all that stuff, but it was like, I don't know how to confirm that there's a submarine base underneath that island.
Absolutely.
And,
what would it be? What, $100 million documentary versus, I'm not exactly sure what the budget on this is, but so you've worked on documentaries before. Tell me about this, what your last documentary, and what was it, Academy Award nomination for your directing? What was that all about?
Oh, no, I have a couple of Southeastern Emmys. I don't have any Academy Award nominations. But I used to work in the Southeast. I'm from the South originally, and so I used to work on docs for like PBS, and I won awards through that. And then I did a short stint in Fiji for a little while on a remote island. But that's mostly some smaller stuff, smaller pieces.
So now that this documentary is finished, where can people watch this basically, on location, following around this character, Cristo Rapolo, and we have all this video that he has, and it's quite compelling. How do people watch it?
Well, it's on Netflix for one, but then if you don't have Netflix, because this has become an issue, a lot of people outside of the U.S. and Canada want to watch it, and we're working on opening up the doors on that for like iTunes and Amazon and all of it, but we're not there yet. So right now you can only watch it in the U.S. and Canada, although sometime in August we will have a screening in Sweden, which is really fun. I just found out about today.
I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah, I know. I meant to tell you. I just found out. I just got off work, so I haven't called you.
That's where the other flying. What do you, Blake? You know the name of the guy that's in Sweden that sees all the UFOs? He's very famous. He took all the pictures and claims he rode around in spaceships with everybody. And
yeah, Billy Meyer. Yeah.
Billy Meyer.
Yep. Well,
that's a big compliment.
It is, and definitely Billy Meyer is an interesting character. I'd sure like to get him on Third Phase Moon. We spoke to his correspondent. His name was Michael Horn, and yeah, you might want to. Well, I don't know. He was kind of cool.
Yeah, I'd love to correspond with him.
Yeah, he let us share his documentary on Third Phase Moon. It's really, and I think over 1 million people watched the Billy Meyer documentary on our Third Phase Moon. But well, you guys,
that's great.
Keep me informed, and well, thank you, Justin, for joining us tonight on Third Phase Moon, and definitely good
pleasure,
luck with everything.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
And absolutely. And Cristo, capture something amazing, and keep in touch with us because I want to see some of your action. You got a YouTube channel? How do people follow you on YouTube?
This is what I wanted to just tell you. You just said it. I have go to Cristo Rapolo on YouTube, and I just placed a bunch of brand new UFO footage. Much of it is in daylight.
I'm going to go to the next caller.
And I highly suggest that you go and check it out because yesterday I filmed the flying saucer, and it was breathtaking. Some of the footage is in HD, but I post a lot of it in HD now. So, I highly recommend that people go there. I also do music, so there's music videos there. I try to entertain my fans as much as possible. There's a bunch of people, and they've been really supportive of us, the movie. So, yeah, just Cristo Rapolo on YouTube.
Well, thanks, Cristo, and appreciate you sharing, your experience. And again, we'll be keeping an eye on his channel. We're going to share the link below on our YouTube channel, so it's easy for you guys to find. Everybody, that was when you see what Cristo and his character is all about on YouTube, he's quite a wild character, but man, he gets some crazy UFO the footage is overwhelming when you look at his whole archive. Stick around. We got information in regards to Ed and his photos on his trip to Mars. Apparently, there's been some enhancements done to the photos, and we want to hear their opinion of what they found. Stick around. Blake Cousins, Third Phase of Moon. All right, Blake, as we're back live, I'm going to share in the chat room the link to Ed's trip to Mars. Ed claims that he has an escort from an alien visitation that takes him to Mars. His escort's name is Boss, apparently. And this is basically a vacation to Mars. Incredible photographs. Apparently, they've been studied by a YouTuber that goes by the name of Unirock. And his first name is Jason. And Unirock is a UFO channel that he goes over a bunch of different topics, but one of his favorites is UFO. So let's bring in Unirock. And welcome to the show, Unirock. How you doing tonight? Thanks for calling in.
Thanks, Blake. I appreciate it, man. I saw you emailed me. I thought I'd give you a call. And how are you guys doing?
Doing good. I saw your email that you sent me, and I appreciate that. But what really compelled me is that you're saying you're investigating some of Ed's, photographic evidence, and you said you did some enhancements on it. And I wanted to get your opinions of basically this. Would you call it a vacation to Mars? I don't know. What do you say about these photos? In my opinion, it's like, wow, Ed's his own guy, and I can't take everything that he says literally, but man, some of his evidence is quite compelling. What's your thoughts?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, buddy. What I do is I take any evidence that I see that it looks interesting or compelling, and I've got a lot of history with Photoshop and other video and photo programs, and I stick it in. I use different adjustments and filters to bring down darkness, to enhance light, and to go to different curves of the light spectrum. And, I look for tells that somebody may have, used a program in advance to create what you're looking at, to see like, hey, is this fake or has this been manipulated in some way? Now, I liked what you had on that video because I didn't see any immediate tells. That doesn't mean that there wasn't any, of course, but it just means that, and not only that, the video itself is like really interesting and compelling. And when I first saw the story, I was like, wow, that's a huge claim. But I'm going to try to get my hands on some of the source pictures and source footage so that I can really run it through, because if I have the source, I can maybe do a lot more. But, I thought it was great footage and an interesting story at least. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Ed has submitted the high-res photos to us, so I could forward them to you. And, what we did is to take his photos and then created a slideshow to showcase his claims. What do you think? Do you really think there's a secret space program that they're hiding from us that they're not sharing in regards to possible travel to Mars and back?
Well, I'll tell you, I operate off of probability on my channel. So if I see something, I want to say to myself, how probable is it that this is true? So then you just go and you find whatever evidence you can. Just like I said, if you run it through Photoshop and it passes the test there, you can maybe add more of a percentage that this could be, but we'll add more weight to his claims. So I want it, like I said, you run it through a couple more programs, or there's also some, I want to say, like I have a few other people I know who are really a lot better than I am at looking at photographs and video, and to give even more weight to something, I ask them too, and then in the end I form like a final opinion. So as it sits now, I really like it. My opinion on it, we get a lot of claims in the conspiracy community, UFOs and the space program. They are hiding things from us, and this is just fact. It's been proven so many times with NASA using their own photo programs to change pictures. And with as many people claiming the kind of stuff that Ed claims, it's definitely worth a really good, as scientific as we can get, investigation. But I am really loving the story and loving the evidence so far, and I would love to just keep digging at it and investigating and giving the people more weight so they can make up their own mind, because you always say that too. You want people to make up their own mind, and I agree with that. So it's definitely worth continuing the journey with those pictures. I'm really excited to see the originals for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate that. And then also we hear that, Andrew Basaggio, he's an interesting character in the ufology world, and there's this thing that he calls Project Pegasus as well. And it's basically a trip back and forth to Mars. But I like the way, how Ed gives the details of how fast it took him to get there, and how basically, these claims are wild. They're wild to say the least. But then again, there's photographic evidence. I don't see any, like you too, Rock. I'm looking at those photos and I'm like, wow, you notice one right away. Photoshop kind of just stands out. It's like, boom, that's a Photoshop, and you could see it with your own eyes. And we at Third Phase of the Moon, there's been some videos that's been put up years and years ago that, it slipped through the cracks. But nowadays we have a really good eye for what is the real deal or not. And
that's great.
Like I said, I got to agree with you.
Yeah, and you guys are doing something great now, and saying that you have let things slip through the cracks. I do that too. I've got my own channel, and I've had a bunch of stuff slip through the cracks. We're just humans. So yeah, the endeavor to further yourself and to always try harder. When somebody does that, it just makes their content and what your ability to look at this stuff better. That's great of you to say about yourself and what you guys are doing. And I love Ed's stuff, and I'm going to just keep digging into it as much as I can. With your permission, since you are going to be sending me the source video, I'll try to put it up into a small video or something on my channel and let you guys know what I find, and I'll email you. So let me know if that's okay in the future. And I can't wait to see what else you put out from him, because he's starting to really give out some good stuff. So definitely cool.
Well, appreciate that, Unirock. We're going to share your YouTube link so everybody could take a look at his work on his YouTube channel. Let me ask you before I let you go, have you ever witnessed a UFO for yourself?
Oh, yeah, Blake. I was in the military at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And, when I was there, I saw a triangle with a dot in the middle. And my wife saw it, too. I wasn't alone. We pulled off the road. Well, it actually took me a minute. I was kind of not really into this stuff back then. I was more, just focused on my career. I'm out of the military now. So we pulled over. We got out of the car, and we're looking at this triangle just hovering far away from us. And we don't hear anything, and we see a little beam of light and a dot in the middle of it. And it disappeared so fast. You know how that happens. And we started to talk to each other. I was so focused on it, I didn't notice that 3 or 4 other cars had pulled over. And that's what really started me looking at UFOs and into the conspiracy world in general. And now once you learn how to look around in the skies, you see a lot of weird stuff that happens. So I do appreciate you saying you'll share my channel. I got a little bit of evidence. I do a lot of conspiracies, though, but UFOs have always been my favorite, and ever since my sighting. So it does get you when you see one for yourself, for sure.
You know what? Thank you so much for your service, and it really comes from somebody that served in the military. They know what's up in the sky. They know what's they can't identify every single aircraft or make and model, but they know if it's unconventional, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I jumped out of helicopters when I was in the military, and you spend a lot of time flying in them, and you see the Earth from not too much higher, but, high enough to have a different perspective. Most men that rode on military aircrafts, they see how they work. They feel the forces themselves while they're in them, and I think it shows a little bit about. It gives them a little extra bit of credibility, I think. Well, maybe not credibility, but they just know how to compare something to a regular aircraft, so they can tell the difference better for sure.
Well, we're going to keep an eye on your channel. You're welcome back anytime on Third Phase Moon. I like when you have somebody looking over the footage that we put up there and then trying to at least having a comment on it is really important to us. So keep in touch, Unirock, and keep up the good work. Thanks for joining us tonight.
You too, Blake. Thank you. Anytime. Same here, bub.
All right. So, we actually joined Unirock's live chat one night. He does a live chat, which is kind of fun, and check it out, everybody. And I'm going to be sending Ed's original photos to him, and he's going to run it through the process. We're going to find out what happens. For my opinion, I've already pretty much enhanced this stuff and looked at it close and zoomed it in, and so far, no deception of any kind. So we're going to be doing this broadcast again Monday night. It's the same time, everybody, and it was my pleasure being with you. We had The Curse of the Man That Sees UFOs. Well, we have that original link. Everybody take a look at that. I wouldn't call it a curse. I'd call it a privilege to see UFO sightings. So I appreciate that, everybody. Keep your eyes on the skies, everybody. Thanks, everybody, on the Flash Chat. We'll see you again next time. Yeah, I'm ready.
Control, this is Flight. We're making our final descent.